My name is Dr. Evelyn Reed, and I'm 32 years old. The email notification flashed on my lab computer at precisely 8:43 a.m., a mundane chime in the sterile quiet of the molecular biology lab. But the subject line, new publication alert, revolutionary gene editing Cascade by Dr. Marcus Thorne, sent a cold, sharp spike of dread through my chest that had nothing to do with scientific discovery and everything to do with gut-wrenching betrayal. It was the title of my research, the paper I had meticulously drafted, the data I had painstakingly analyzed, the breakthrough I had poured 3 years of my life into. And it was published, solo-authored, by my lab partner, Dr. Marcus Thorne. My breath hitched, a gasp that felt trapped in my throat. I clicked the link, my fingers trembling, and there it was, glaring back at me from the prestigious journal's homepage, his name emblazoned across the top, his smiling face in the accompanying author photo. "Great minds think alike," he'd quipped just last week, a phrase that now felt like a poisoned dagger. I felt the initial shock, the surge of white-hot rage, then a strange, almost terrifying calm settle over me. I simply nodded, my face impassive, and quietly continued my work, calibrating a sensitive spectrophotometer, my hands moving with practiced precision even as my world fractured into 1,000 pieces. What he didn't know, what he couldn't possibly have conceived in his narrow, ambitious world, was that his brazen act of theft had just set in motion a chain of events far more intricate and devastating than any of his scientific theories. He had no idea the patent office was about to call him the very next day. Before I dive into the sheer, agonizing detail of what happened next, and how a seemingly quiet act of injustice brought down an entire empire, I want to take a moment to welcome you all. If you're just tuning in for the first time, thank you for being here. Please, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join our community. I share stories of family conflict, betrayal, and how to find your strength when everything seems lost. And for my returning subscribers, welcome back. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means the world to me. Now, let's talk about that publication, that smile, and the secret call that would lead to a very public, very delicious downfall. My life before that email was a carefully ordered universe, dictated by the precise rhythms of scientific inquiry. I am a research scientist, specializing in molecular biology and genetic engineering, working at a prestigious university research institute. My world is one of pristine labs, the gentle hum of centrifuges, the delicate dance of DNA sequences. My days are a relentless pursuit of discovery, a blend of meticulous experimental design, countless hours at the bench pipetting and culturing, and the intellectually demanding work of analyzing complex genomic data. I spend hours under the bright lights of my microscope, my mind deeply engrossed in the intricate architecture of life, searching for the elusive keys to unlock new therapeutic possibilities. It's a job that demands unwavering focus, an almost obsessive attention to detail, and a deep, intuitive understanding of biological systems. I thrive on the intellectual challenge, on pushing the boundaries of what's known, on contributing to the vast, intricate tapestry of human knowledge. My career aspiration is to one day lead my own independent research division, to shepherd groundbreaking discoveries from concept to tangible impact. My living situation is a modest but meticulously organized one-bedroom apartment in a quiet, leafy neighborhood just a few blocks from the university. It's a sanctuary of calm, a stark contrast to the intense focus of my lab. Bookshelves overflow with scientific journals and classic literature, and a small, well-tended collection of succulents brings a touch of green to my minimalist decor. My financial situation is stable. My salary, while comfortable for a research scientist, isn't extravagant, and I've always been a disciplined saver, prioritizing financial independence over fleeting luxuries. My hobbies are quiet, solitary pursuits that allow my mind to unwind from the intense demands of my work. I lose myself in complex jigsaw puzzles, appreciating the methodical process of fitting pieces together. I find solace in listening to classical music, the intricate harmonies a soothing balm to my analytical mind. I also enjoy long, solitary walks through the city's botanical gardens, observing the quiet, persistent growth of nature. My friendships are a small, trusted circle. There's Dr. Ben Carter, a brilliant organic chemist who shares my lab space and my dry wit. He's meticulous, quiet, and possesses an incredible intellect, often helping me talk through complex experimental designs. Outside of work, my best friend, Maya, is a vibrant, empathetic elementary school teacher. She's the one who pulls me out of my lab-induced cocoons, reminding me there's a world beyond Petri dishes and academic papers. We have a standing Sunday brunch ritual, where I can finally let my guard down and speak about something other than molecular pathways. There are no current romantic relationships in my life. I've consciously chosen to prioritize my career and my personal growth after a past disappointment that taught me the value of self-reliance. My morning routine is a calm ritual: a strong cup of black coffee, a quick scan of the latest scientific literature, followed by an hour of focused lab work before the rest of the institute stirs. My evenings are quiet, a balm after the intensity of the day. A healthy home-cooked meal, a good book, or the satisfying click of a puzzle piece falling into place. It's a life I built, piece by deliberate piece, and it was everything I needed, until a power play threatened to dismantle it all. To truly understand the quiet intensity of my resolve, the way I compartmentalize emotion and focus on irrefutable facts, you need to understand the family I grew up in. My parents, Professor Allen and Dr. Carol Reed, were academics, intellectual giants in their respective fields of theoretical physics and astrophysics. Our home was less a warm, bustling family hub and more a quiet, intellectual retreat, filled with books, scientific papers, and the low hum of abstract thought. Emotions were viewed with a detached curiosity, a phenomenon to be observed and analyzed, rather than experienced and expressed. Intellectual achievement was the highest virtue, logic the purest form of communication. My parents valued brilliance above all else, and they made it clear, subtly and overtly, who possessed it in spades. My older brother, Daniel, 3 years my senior, was the shining star, the embodiment of their intellectual ideals. He sailed through advanced math and science courses, won national debate championships, and effortlessly absorbed complex theories. He was tall, with a regal bearing, a sharp, aquiline nose, and eyes that held a knowing, analytical glint. His voice was articulate, his arguments flawless. For my parents, Daniel was the perfect equation, the irrefutable proof of their superior genetic contribution. They saw him as a direct extension of themselves, a logical and brilliant successor to their academic legacy. My role in the family was that of the quiet achiever, the diligent one. My grades were excellent, but I rarely won the splashy awards Daniel did. My successes were in meticulous detail, in solving complex problems that required patience rather than flash. My parents would praise my diligence or my rigor with a polite nod, but their eyes would light up, their voices would quicken, when discussing Daniel's latest triumph. I was like a well-crafted proof, accurate and sound, but Daniel was the elegant, groundbreaking theory that redefined the field. Family dinners were intellectual sparring matches. My father would pose complex scientific or philosophical questions, and Daniel would immediately jump in, offering brilliant, multifaceted answers, dissecting the topic with precision. My mother would chime in, adding her own incisive observations, and they would engage in a rapid-fire intellectual dance, leaving me feeling like an audience member rather than a participant. If I tried to offer an opinion, it was often met with a polite, "Interesting, Evelyn, but have you considered the implications of the quantum entanglement theory on that premise?" The conversation would then seamlessly pivot back to Daniel's more rigorous insights. I remember my 9th birthday vividly. I desperately wanted a junior chemistry set, dreaming of mixing potions and making discoveries. Daniel, who was 12, received an advanced robotics kit, complete with programming software, something my parents deemed truly stimulating. When it was my turn, I received a beautifully bound, comprehensive dictionary. My mother explained, "Knowledge is the greatest gift, Evelyn, and precise language is the foundation of precise thought." I spent that night tracing the intricate patterns of the dictionary's cover, feeling the heavy weight of unspoken disappointment. Another time in middle school, I placed second in the regional science fair with a project on hydroponics. It was a huge accomplishment for me, something I'd worked tirelessly for, a blend of biology and practical application. I came home bursting with excitement, My parents offered a brief, "That's quite good, Evelyn. Well done." Later that week, Daniel received early acceptance to a highly competitive summer program at a prestigious university, having submitted an essay that my father described as a profound exploration of moral philosophy. My parents hosted a small, elegant dinner party to celebrate, inviting their academic colleagues. They spoke for hours about Daniel's extraordinary potential and innate brilliance. My science fair ribbon sat forgotten on my desk, a small, insignificant glimmer against the bright spotlight fixed on my brother. During a family vacation to a national park, Daniel, at 14, spent hours sketching intricate geological formations and discussing their tectonic origins with my father. I, at 11, preferred collecting different plant samples, analyzing their cellular structure under a cheap magnifying glass I had bought myself, fascinated by the biodiversity. My mother found me once, sitting by a stream, carefully labeling specimens. "Evelyn," she sighed, "why are you wasting your time on such fleeting subjects? Daniel is making excellent use of this educational opportunity. You should be observing the larger geological structures, the fundamental forces." My love for biology, for the intricate details of life, was constantly dismissed as a distraction, a frivolous pursuit compared to Daniel's serious, intellectual endeavors. These patterns taught me self-reliance. I learned to find my own quiet victories, to value my own unique interests, even if my family didn't. I became fiercely independent, meticulously organized, and intensely focused. My quiet exterior hid a sharp observational mind, honed by years of analyzing subtle shifts in tone and expression that indicated approval or dismissal. I knew I wouldn't follow in my parents' or Daniel's footsteps into abstract philosophy or theoretical physics. I was drawn to the tangible, to the practical application of complex biological ideas, which is what led me to molecular biology and genetic engineering. I sought a world where performance was quantifiable, where my diligence and precision would finally be seen for their true worth, where scientific discovery was an objective metric of contribution. I believed, perhaps naively, that in the scientific world, merit would be the ultimate arbiter, not family lineage or academic prestige. I was about to learn just how wrong I was. The genesis of my groundbreaking research began nearly 3 years ago, a flicker of an idea born from countless hours poring over academic papers on gene therapy and CRISPR technology. My project, which I dubbed the gene editing Cascade, aimed to develop a novel method for more precise and efficient gene editing, one that could target specific cell types with unprecedented accuracy, minimizing off-target effects. This had massive implications for treating genetic diseases, cancer, and even developing new diagnostic tools. I poured every ounce of my intellectual and physical energy into it, working late nights, sacrificing weekends, driven by the profound potential of the discovery. My lab notebooks were a meticulous chronicle of my progress, each experiment dated, detailed, and signed, a testament to the rigorous scientific method. It was about 2 years into the project when Dr. Marcus Thorne was assigned as my lab partner. He was a new postdoctoral fellow, fresh out of a prestigious Ivy League program. On the surface, Marcus was everything I wasn't: charismatic, effortlessly charming, with a quick wit and a talent for self-promotion. He was handsome, with piercing blue eyes and a confident, easy smile that seemed to win everyone over. He seemed genuinely enthusiastic about my research, praising my experimental design and the elegance of my approach. Initially, our collaboration was productive. He brought a different perspective, a talent for synthesizing ideas, and his networking skills were undeniable. I naively believed we were a complementary team. But subtle warning signs began to appear, tiny cracks in the facade of our collaboration. Marcus had a habit of taking undue credit in casual conversations. He'd present our findings at department seminars, often leading the discussion, downplaying my extensive contributions while highlighting his own more theoretical insights. When I'd gently correct him, he'd just laugh it off. "Oh, Evelyn, you know me, always eager to share. Great minds think alike, right?" His charming dismissiveness made it difficult to confront him directly without appearing oversensitive. Then came the attempts to control data access. He'd frequently borrow my lab notebook, claiming he needed to cross-reference something, returning it days later. He, insist on being the primary custodian of our shared digital data, citing his superior organizational skills. I found myself subtly duplicating files, keeping redundant backups on my personal, encrypted drives, a faint unease prickling at the back of my mind. He also developed an unusual, almost obsessive interest in my specific experimental methodology, asking me to walk him through my precise culturing techniques, my intricate purification processes, even the nuances of my data analysis algorithms, far beyond what was necessary for a collaborative partner. I rationalized it as his enthusiasm, his keen intellect. The biggest red flag was the repeated delays in discussing co-authorship for our first major publication. We had agreed verbally that the first paper on the gene editing Cascade would be a co-authored piece, with me as the lead author, given my foundational work. Every time I brought it up, he'd deflect. "Oh, Evelyn, let's just focus on the science. The publication will come. Let's make sure the data is absolutely perfect. No rush, right? We're a team." His reassurances felt hollow, his smiles a little too wide. My unease grew into a quiet apprehension. I confided in Ben, my trusted lab colleague. "Ben," I said one evening as we were the last ones in the lab, "do you ever feel like Marcus is appropriating my work? He keeps presenting our research as primarily his." Ben, always careful, considered his words. "He's definitely a showman, Evelyn, very good at drawing attention to himself, but he is brilliant. Perhaps he just has a different way of communicating our collaboration." He tried to offer a rational explanation, but his slight frown betrayed his own subtle discomfort. I tried to dismiss my suspicions, telling myself it was just my old insecurities resurfacing, my family's pattern of overlooking me making me overly sensitive. I clung to the belief that the scientific community, unlike my family, was built on objective merit and ethical collaboration. I was about to learn just how utterly wrong I was. The day of the betrayal was a crisp, clear Tuesday, one that should have been filled with the quiet satisfaction of scientific progress. Instead, it became the day my world shattered. I was in the lab, meticulously setting up a gene sequencing run, when the new publication alert email flashed across my computer screen. My heart, which had been beating with the steady rhythm of scientific focus, suddenly lurched. New publication alert. Revolutionary gene editing Cascade by Dr. Marcus Thorne. The words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, a bitter metallic taste filling my mouth. My hands, usually so steady, trembled violently as I clicked the link. The journal page loaded pristine and unyielding. There it was. The title, the abstract, the groundbreaking data, the elegant illustrations, my work, my 3 years of blood, sweat, and intellectual agony. And under author information, only one name, Dr. Marcus Thorne. His smiling, confident face stared back at me from the author photo, a picture of smug triumph. My vision blurred, not with tears, but with a white-hot, consuming rage that seemed to sear through every cell of my body. It wasn't just plagiarism, it was theft, a profound violation of my intellectual property, a brazen act of professional assassination. He had taken everything. My discovery, my contribution, my future. He had used my meticulously compiled data, my precise methodologies, my carefully crafted narrative, and simply slapped his name on it. The sheer audacity, the chilling ruthlessness of it took my breath away. Just as the shock began to give way to a primal scream trapped in my throat, Marcus himself strolled into the lab, humming a cheerful tune. He was dressed impeccably, his hair perfectly coiffed, radiating an almost unbearable aura of self-satisfaction. He spotted me at my computer, my face undoubtedly pale and contorted, staring at his published paper. He walked over, a knowing, condescending smirk playing on his lips. "Morning, Evelyn. Early bird catches the worm, eh?" He said, his voice light and casual. He glanced at my screen, his eyes lingering on his own name, his smugness deepening. "Ah, yes, my new paper just came out this morning. Exciting, isn't it? Already getting a lot of traction." I slowly turned to face him, my hands clenched so tightly under the lab bench that my fingernails were digging into my palms. My voice, when it came, was a low, dangerous whisper. "Marcus, this is my work, my research, my data. You published it under your name. Solo-authored." He feigned surprise, a theatrical raising of his eyebrows. "Oh, Evelyn, don't be silly. Our work, perhaps at best. We collaborated, yes. You did some of the grunt work, of course, but the conceptualization, the overarching vision, that was mine. His smile widened, a cruel, predatory flash of teeth. Besides, great minds think alike, right? Happens all the time in science. We were working on similar ideas. I just got there first. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, his eyes gleaming with malicious triumph. And frankly, Evelyn, you're just not cut out for the spotlight. You're brilliant in the lab, yes, very diligent, very precise. But you lack vision. The ability to tell the story, I have that. I know how to get the credit. And the funding, you should be grateful, really. This will reflect well on the lab. His dismissive arrogance, his gaslighting, his blatant theft, it was all too much. For a split second, I wanted to smash my computer screen, to launch myself across the lab bench and wipe that smug look off his face. But then, my training kicked in. My years of suppressing emotion, of channeling frustration into meticulous detail, took over. I took a deep, shuddering breath, forcing the rage down, pushing it into a cold, hard knot of resolve. I would not give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. "Congratulations, Marcus," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, my face utterly devoid of emotion. "That's quite an achievement." My eyes met his, and I held his gaze, a silent promise burning in their depths. He chuckled, clearly believing he had won, believing I had capitulated. "Indeed, Evelyn, indeed it is. Perhaps now I can finally get that independent lab I've been aiming for." He turned, humming again, and strolled out of the lab, leaving me standing alone, surrounded by the ghosts of my stolen dreams, the cold reality of his betrayal. But he had fundamentally underestimated me. He had taken my past, but he had no idea he had just ignited the fire that would define my future. The hours immediately following Marcus's nonchalant confession were a haze of numb shock, punctuated by sharp stabs of pain and a relentless internal monologue of raw fury. My hands trembled as I tried to continue my work, but my pipettes felt heavy, my focus shattered. I felt physically ill, a cold sweat dampening my lab coat, my stomach churning with nausea. I left the lab early, unable to bear the pretense of normalcy, unable to face the casual congratulations Marcus was undoubtedly already receiving from other colleagues. I stumbled back to my apartment, the familiar streets blurring through a film of tears that I couldn't seem to stop. I called Ben, my trusted lab colleague. My voice was tight, strained, as I recounted the details of Marcus's publication, his chillingly casual dismissal of my work. Ben listened in stunned silence. "Evelyn, I can't believe it," he finally said, his voice filled with disbelief and quiet fury. "I knew he was ambitious, but this is outright fraud." His support was a fragile lifeline in the crushing darkness. I also called Maya, my best friend, who reacted with a primal, protective rage. "That bastard! We're going to burn his career to the ground, Evelyn. You hear me? To the ground." Her fierce loyalty was a small comfort, but it didn't lessen the overwhelming sense of violation. Sleep was impossible. My mind raced, replaying every interaction, every suspicious comment, every moment of Marcus's calculated deception. I felt foolish, naive, angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. The weight of losing 3 years of my life's work, the potential for groundbreaking discoveries, the dreams of leading my own research. It was all gone, stolen, replaced by a hollow ache in my chest. I considered immediate action, contacting the journal, the university ethics committee, even the police. But my scientific training, the need for irrefutable proof, held me back. I knew Marcus was cunning, well-connected. He would deny everything, gaslight, and turn it back on me. I needed more than just my word against his. I needed undeniable scientific fact. The next morning, though I felt utterly shattered, I forced myself to go to the lab. Not to work, but to plan, to gather my defenses. The first step was to secure my lab notebooks. They were my meticulous, dated, and signed records of every experiment, every observation, every chemical used, every conclusion drawn over the past 3 years. I gathered every single one, along with all my digital backups of data, sequencing results, and analysis algorithms. I locked them securely in my personal, off-site storage unit, a fortress of evidence. My hands trembled as I carefully organized them, each page a testament to my intellectual ownership. This wasn't just about proving plagiarism. This was about proving invention. And I knew deep down that Marcus had only stolen part of my story. The most important part, the truly innovative, patentable part, was still mine. He had published the tree, but I held the seeds of the entire forest. My first attempt at official reconciliation was an email to our department head, Dr. Eleanor Vance, a formidable but generally fair scientist. I attached Marcus's published paper, along with a carefully worded factual account of my extensive contributions, the shared data, and my lab notebooks as evidence. I requested a formal ethics investigation and an immediate retraction or co-authorship correction to the journal. Dr. Vance's reply, 2 days later, was polite but distant. Dr. Reed, I understand your distress. Dr. Thorne has indeed presented a compelling case for his sole authorship, citing his conceptual leadership and independent verification of the results. While we take all allegations of scientific misconduct seriously, we require irrefutable proof. The journal has also indicated that their editorial policy requires substantial evidence to retract or alter a published work, and as the original author, Dr. Thorne is the primary authority. I suggest you attempt to resolve this amicably with Dr. Thorne. Perhaps a co-authorship on a future publication with a clear lead author role for you would be a more productive path forward. Her response was a crushing blow. They were protecting him. His charisma, his connections, his prestigious background all weighed more heavily than my years of painstaking work. I was dismissed as distressed, my claims seen as an emotional outburst, not a factual accusation. My second attempt was a direct, albeit tense, confrontation with Marcus in the presence of Dr. Vance. I came armed with printouts of my lab notebook pages, specifically highlighting dated entries that documented experiments he had merely observed or data sets he had only cursorily reviewed. I showed how my work predated his conceptualization. He simply scoffed, leaning back in his chair, a look of bored disdain on his face. "Evelyn, this is ridiculous. These are preliminary notes. Anyone can write dates. My intellectual contribution was in the interpretation of the data, the vision for its application. You merely followed instructions. You seem to be confused about the nature of collaborative research, and frankly, your obsession with this is becoming unprofessional." Dr. Vance, looking increasingly uncomfortable, cleared her throat. "Perhaps, Dr. Reed, you are indeed misinterpreting the dynamic of this collaboration. Dr. Thorne has a long-standing reputation for groundbreaking theoretical work. It was pure gaslighting, a coordinated effort to undermine my credibility and rewrite history. I left the meeting feeling utterly humiliated, my evidence dismissed, my voice silenced. My third and most devastating attempt was to appeal directly to the journal. I sent a comprehensive package of my evidence, a detailed timeline, and Dr. Vance's dismissive email, hoping a neutral third party would see the truth. Their response, a week later, was a terse form letter. "While we appreciate your concern, our journal maintains strict ethical guidelines. However, based on the submitted materials and the current university position, we find insufficient evidence to warrant a retraction or change of authorship at this time. We stand by Dr. Thorne's original publication." The scientific community, the very bastion of truth and meritocracy, had failed me. My work was stolen, my reputation was compromised, and I was left with no recourse. The emotional toll was immense. Sleepless nights were filled with a burning, suffocating rage. The betrayal of Marcus, the complicity of the university, the dismissiveness of the journal, it all compounded into a profound sense of helplessness. My dreams felt like ashes, my future a barren wasteland. Each failed attempt chipped away at my self-esteem, leaving me feeling small, unheard, just like the young girl whose achievements were constantly overshadowed by her brother. But the unprofessional comment from Marcus and Dr. Vance's dismissal inadvertently gave me a crucial insight. They saw me as the diligent, meticulous lab worker, the one who executed, not the one who innovated. They focused on the published paper, the superficial discovery. But I knew, with a scientist's certainty, that Marcus had only published the tip of the iceberg, the most easily digestible, publishable aspect of my work. The true genius, the truly novel and inventive part of the gene editing cascade, was something far more profound, something he hadn't fully understood, something he hadn't yet been able to articulate, let alone publish. It was the core, proprietary methodology that made the cascade so uniquely precise and efficient. It was the how that was more important than the what. And it was still entirely contained within my meticulously documented lab notebooks, my encrypted data files, and my own brilliant mind. My systematic investigation began with a subtle, but profound, shift in perspective. I stopped focusing on Marcus's published paper and started focusing on my unique invention. I wasn't just pursuing justice for plagiarism. I was pursuing ownership of a groundbreaking discovery. I locked myself away in my apartment for days, poring over my lab notebooks, cross-referencing every date, every signature, every experimental condition. My notebooks were a fortress of scientific integrity, each page initialed and dated by me, with a secondary signature from Ben, my trusted colleague, on all critical entries, a practice we had both adopted to ensure reproducibility and accountability. The digital timestamps on my experimental data and analysis code were irrefutable. I had digital footprints of every single step of the inventive process. My aha moment came not with a bang, but with a quiet, scientific clarity. Marcus's paper described the general concept of a gene editing cascade and a few preliminary results, but it completely omitted the specific, proprietary molecular architecture I had engineered, the precise sequence of enzymatic reactions and control mechanisms that made my cascade unique and highly efficient. He had stolen the concept, yes, but not the enabling technology, the intricate, patentable methodology that would make it truly transformative. He didn't understand the nuance. He only saw the flashy result. It was as if he stole a recipe for a cake, but missed the secret ingredient that made it truly extraordinary. I realized then that this was not a plagiarism case for a university ethics committee. This was an intellectual property case for the patent office. This was a legal battle for ownership of an invention. My quiet work, my meticulous documentation, my very nature as a precise, methodical scientist had unwittingly created the perfect defense. I discreetly reached out to Dr. Clara Albright. Yes, the same formidable attorney who had helped Alara Vance in the previous story. But in my narrative, she is an IP lawyer, a leading intellectual property attorney known for her fierce advocacy for scientists. She had been recommended by a former professor who knew her reputation. I walked into her office, a thick, meticulously organized binder of my lab notebooks and digital proofs in hand. I laid out the entire story, detailing Marcus's plagiarism, the university's dismissal, and my realization about the patentable aspects of my work. Dr. Albright listened, her piercing blue eyes missing nothing. She reviewed my documentation with a seasoned eye, nodding slowly. "Dr. Reed," she said, her voice sharp and clear, "you haven't just proved plagiarism. You have proved sole inventorship. This is a patentable invention." And Marcus Thorne has just publicly revealed the general concept, essentially giving away the broad idea, while you still hold the proprietary key. Her words were a surge of adrenaline, a profound sense of vindication already blooming in my chest. The fight was far from over. It had just moved to a much bigger, more powerful arena, and this time I had a secret weapon of my own. My mental and emotional preparation for what was to come was a finely honed exercise in strategic detachment. The initial emotional storm of betrayal had long since subsided, replaced by a cold, unwavering resolve. My objective was clear: secure the patent for my gene editing cascade, expose Marcus Thorne's fraud unequivocally, and reclaim my intellectual and professional standing. My legal team, led by the formidable Dr. Clara Albright, became my lifeline. We worked in absolute secrecy, understanding that any leak would allow Marcus to potentially file his own, diluted patent claim, or for the university to try and claim ownership. The first crucial step was to file for the patent before any public confrontation. Dr. Albright guided me through the intricate process, meticulously detailing every claim, every unique molecular structure, every experimental proof. My lab notebooks, with Ben's co-signatures on critical pages, became invaluable. We included digital timestamps of my data, my specific gene sequences, and my unique software algorithms. The patent application was a comprehensive, undeniable testament to my sole inventorship, carefully crafted to distinguish my core invention from the more general concepts Marcus had already published. It was submitted to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, with an expedited review request, citing the prior art Marcus's paper and the need to protect novel intellectual property. The waiting was agonizing, but my focus remained laser-sharp. My internal monologue was a constant rehearsal of the coming confrontation. I anticipated Marcus's denial, the university's potential backlash, the scrutiny from the scientific community. But I was armed with truth, with documented proof, and with Dr. Albright's unwavering confidence. My support system was crucial. Ben, who had quietly provided additional witness statements for my patent application, became my sounding board, his quiet anger mirroring my own. Maya kept me grounded, reminding me of my strength, encouraging me to breathe. My parents, while still somewhat mystified by the legal intricacies, provided a steady, if distant, moral support, their quiet pride in my determination evident. I knew Marcus was preparing for his moment in the sun. The university, eager to capitalize on the discovery published in a prestigious journal, was organizing a major press conference, followed by an internal innovation awards ceremony, celebrating Marcus and his revolutionary gene editing Cascade. This was to be his public coronation, his triumphant moment of glory, and it was precisely where I intended to deliver his public execution. My plan was to attend the press conference, outwardly a supportive colleague, and wait for the perfect moment. I would not interrupt, I would let him preen. And then Dr. Albright would make her entrance. The stage was set, the trap was sprung, and Marcus had no idea he was about to walk into it. The patent approval, the final, crucial piece of my puzzle, arrived just 2 days before the press conference, a thick envelope from the USPTO. It was official. The gene editing Cascade, with its unique molecular architecture and methodology, was mine, solely mine. The sense of vindication was immediate, profound, and utterly empowering. The air in the university's main auditorium was electric, thick with the buzz of anticipation and the low hum of television cameras. This was Marcus Thorne's moment, his public coronation. The stage was set with a polished podium, a large screen displaying impressive graphics of his gene editing Cascade, and a backdrop emblazoned with the university's crest and the title, celebrating Dr. Marcus Thorne's groundbreaking discovery. Reporters from major scientific publications and local news outlets filled the first few rows. Prominent university officials, including Dr. Vance, sat front and center, their faces beaming with pride. I sat in the back, a quiet observer, dressed in a simple, professional dark gray suit, my hair pulled back in a neat bun. My expression was calm, almost serene. Beside me sat Mark, my fiancé. Yes, I eventually found love again after Michael and Marcus's betrayals with a kind and brilliant man who worked as a computational biologist at another institute. He held my hand, his thumb gently tracing circles on my skin, a silent anchor in the storm. Dr. Clara Albright, my attorney, was seated a few rows ahead of me, discreetly dressed, blending into the crowd. In my purse, a crisp, official document rested, the granted patent for my gene editing Cascade. Marcus Thorne strode onto the stage, radiating an almost unbearable aura of self-importance. He was impeccably dressed, his smile broad and confident. He launched into a polished, charismatic speech, detailing his groundbreaking discovery, his vision for the future of genetic medicine, his tireless dedication. He spoke of the eureka moment he'd had, the sleepless nights he'd spent, the bold intellectual leaps that had led to his revolutionary gene editing technology. He even acknowledged, with a dismissive wave of his hand, the excellent support of my lab team, a transparent nod to my existence without giving any actual credit. My stomach churned, but I held onto my composure, my gaze fixed on him, my quiet strength unwavering. He finished to a thunderous round of applause, basking in the glory, clearly believing he had successfully cemented his legacy. As he opened the floor for questions, a flurry of hands shot up. Reporters clamored for his attention. Just then, Dr. Albright, my attorney, calmly rose from her seat. Her presence, subtle yet commanding, drew a few curious glances. "Dr. Thorne," she said, her voice clear and resonant, cutting through the murmuring crowd. "My name is Dr. Clara Albright. I'm an intellectual property attorney." Marcus, initially annoyed by the interruption, gave her a dismissive smile. "Yes, ma'am. Do you have a question about the patentability of my discovery?" He chuckled, a condescending sound. I assure you, we've already cleared all the legal hurdles. On the contrary, Dr. Thorne, Ms. Albright replied, her voice growing sharper. I do have a question about a patent, specifically the patent for the gene editing Cascade. It seems the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office had some very specific questions for you this morning. Marcus's smile faltered. His eyes narrowed, a flicker of unease crossing his face. I'm not sure what you're implying, he said, his voice suddenly tighter. There's no issue with my patent application. Oh, but there is, Ms. Albright stated, her voice rising with undeniable authority. Because it appears the USPTO has just issued a patent for the gene editing Cascade, precision molecular architecture and methodology, patent number A specific, plausible sounding number, e.g., 11,234,567 B2, to Dr. Evelyn Reed. She paused for dramatic effect, letting the words hang in the stunned silence. Then she turned, her hand outstretched and pointed directly at me, sitting in the back row. The actual inventor, Dr. Evelyn Reed, who is present here today. A collective gasp ripped through the auditorium. All heads swiveled, every single camera lens in the room, every reporter's stunned gaze, turned from Marcus Thorne, frozen in disbelief on the stage, to me, sitting calmly in the back. Dr. Vance, the department head, looked like she'd been slapped, her face a ghastly white. The other university officials looked utterly horrified. Marcus's face went from confident to pale to a terrifying mottled purple. His jaw dropped, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock, terror, and incandescent fury. No, he shrieked, his voice raw, unhinged. That's impossible. She's lying. This is a conspiracy. My research is. He lunged towards the podium, knocking over the microphone, which clattered loudly to the floor. She's a plagiarist. She stole my ideas. On the contrary, Dr. Thorne, Ms. Albright interjected, her voice unwavering amidst the chaos. Dr. Reed's patent application contains irrefutable evidence of her sole inventorship, meticulously documented lab notebooks, digital timestamps of her data predating your publication, and corroborating witness testimony. Your published paper, while detailing a general concept, conspicuously omitted the proprietary methodology that makes Dr. Reed's invention unique and patentable. The Patent Office recognized the difference. They recognized the true inventor. She held up a copy of the official patent document. The room erupted into a cacophony of shouts, flashbulbs, and frantic questions. Reporters, sensing blood in the water, swarmed towards me and Ms. Albright. University officials rushed the stage, trying to control the rapidly escalating disaster. Marcus, surrounded by a few bewildered staff members, looked utterly broken, his carefully constructed career dissolving before his very eyes. Dr. Vance, her face streaked with tears, turned to me, her eyes pleading, but I simply met her gaze, my own eyes holding no pity. As university security discreetly escorted Marcus Thorne, now a sobbing, incoherent mess, off the stage and out of the auditorium, the lead detective from the fraud unit, who had been tipped off by Ms. Albright after the patent approval, calmly approached him. His celebration had just become his public downfall. I remained seated, a quiet, profound sense of vindication washing over me. Mark squeezed my hand, his eyes shining with pride. It wasn't the cheers of a crowd, but the undeniable, unassailable truth of my patent that filled me with a quiet, triumphant power. The chess game was over, and I had played the winning move. The immediate consequences of that press conference were nothing short of a scientific and academic earthquake. The video of Marcus Thorne's public meltdown and arrest, juxtaposed with Dr. Clara Albright's calm announcement of my patent, went viral within minutes. Major scientific journals immediately issued retractions of his paper, citing unprecedented ethical violations and fraudulent claims of authorship. The university, reeling from the public scandal and the damage to its prestigious reputation, launched an emergency internal ethics investigation. Dr. Eleanor Vance, the department head who had previously dismissed my concerns, was placed on immediate administrative leave, her complicity in enabling Marcus now undeniable. Other university officials publicly apologized for their oversight. Marcus Thorne was arrested on charges of fraud, intellectual property theft, and misrepresentation. His carefully cultivated career, built on a foundation of intellectual arrogance and deceit, imploded entirely. He was blacklisted from every reputable scientific institution, his name now synonymous with academic fraud. No funding agency would touch him, no journal would publish his work, and no university would offer him a position. His professional life was utterly, irrevocably destroyed. For me, the shift was immediate and dramatic. I went from being an overlooked research scientist to a sudden, reluctant celebrity in the scientific community. My phone began ringing off the hook with offers from other prestigious universities, pharmaceutical companies, and venture capitalists eager to fund my research and collaborate on the commercialization of the gene editing Cascade. The university that had initially dismissed me, desperate to salvage its image, issued a profuse public apology, offered me an immediate promotion to lead my own independent research division, and pledged substantial, unconditional funding for my lab. I accepted their offer, but on my terms, ensuring complete autonomy and a clear, legally binding framework for intellectual property ownership. My quiet vindication transformed into a profound sense of empowerment. I wasn't just cleared, I was celebrated. The scientific community, once so quick to dismiss my claims, now rallied around me, seeing me as a champion of scientific integrity. I didn't gloat or revel in Marcus's downfall. My focus was squarely on the future, on leveraging my patent to advance the gene editing Cascade, on making a real difference in the world. My relationships with Ben and Maya, who had stood by me through the darkest days, deepened into an unbreakable bond. My parents, witnessing the profound impact of my intellectual property, finally understood the true power and value of my scientific ambitions, not just for academic prestige, but for tangible, world-changing innovation. The journey was excruciating, but the destination was a profound sense of peace and a future brimming with possibility. The extended consequences of the gene editing Cascade scandal and my subsequent triumph reverberated through the scientific and academic world for years. Marcus Thorne, convicted of fraud and intellectual property theft, served a prison sentence, his name permanently etched in the annals of academic misconduct. His once promising career was utterly extinguished, a cautionary tale whispered in university hallways. He vanished from scientific discourse, his contributions, even the legitimate ones, forever tainted by his egregious ethical violations. Meanwhile, my career soared to unprecedented heights. The gene editing Cascade, under my direct leadership and with substantial funding from the university, now under new, more ethical leadership, advanced rapidly. Within a year, my lab successfully optimized the Cascade for specific therapeutic applications, achieving previously unimaginable precision in gene editing. The patent proved invaluable, attracting significant interest from major biotechnology companies. I founded my own biotech startup, Reed Therapeutics, dedicated to translating the gene editing Cascade into clinical treatments for various genetic disorders and cancers. My company went public 2 years later, its valuation in the billions, a testament to the groundbreaking nature of the technology and the ethical foundation upon which it was built. I became a leading voice in scientific ethics and intellectual property protection, regularly speaking at international conferences and advising government agencies on policy. My story inspired countless young scientists, particularly women, to meticulously document their work, assert their intellectual ownership, and stand up against academic misconduct. The university, having learned a hard lesson, implemented stringent new policies for research collaboration and intellectual property, becoming a leader in ethical scientific practice. Life after victory has been nothing short of extraordinary. It's been 5 years since the patent was granted, and Reed Therapeutics is on the cusp of launching its first clinical trial, offering hope to millions suffering from previously untreatable diseases. I lead a team of brilliant, dedicated scientists, fostering a collaborative and ethical research environment. My days are a whirlwind of cutting-edge research, strategic business development, and public advocacy, a perfect fusion of my scientific passion and my deep-seated commitment to integrity. My mental health is robust, grounded in a profound sense of purpose and self-worth. The quiet, observant girl who once felt overlooked now commands respect, not through force, but through undeniable achievement and unwavering ethical standards. My personal life has flourished beyond measure. Mark, my wonderful fiancé, became my husband a year after the patent was granted. Our wedding was a quiet, joyous affair, surrounded by close friends and family, a celebration of love, resilience, and a future built on shared values. He continues his work as a computational biologist, our lives intertwined by shared passions and mutual respect. We bought a beautiful home with a large, sun-drenched study, filled with books and scientific papers, a true sanctuary. We even adopted a rescue dog, a scruffy terrier mix named Eureka, whose boundless energy and goofy affection fill our home with laughter. My friendships with Ben and Maya are stronger than ever, forged in the crucible of shared adversity and now blooming in shared success. My relationships with my parents and Daniel have undergone a profound transformation. My parents, initially focused solely on academic achievement, now express immense pride not just in my scientific breakthroughs, but in the ethical leadership and impact I have championed. They attend my company's scientific symposiums, their eyes gleaming with a newfound understanding of my chosen path. Daniel, who once overshadowed me, is now one of my most enthusiastic supporters, often consulting me on scientific applications in his own field, our past rivalry replaced by genuine admiration and a deep fraternal bond. As for Marcus Thorne, he remains a nonentity, a ghost of a past I have long since transcended. I don't think about him with bitterness anymore, but with a detached understanding that his actions, though devastating, were ultimately the catalyst for my greatest growth. He forced me to confront my fears, to trust my instincts, and to transform a moment of profound betrayal into a foundation for unparalleled success and impact. The most profound personal growth has been in my own self-worth. I no longer seek external validation or worry about being perceived as less than. I've learned that true intellectual ownership is not just about a name on a paper, but about the undeniable, documented truth of one's contribution. My quiet diligence, once dismissed as a lack of vision, proved to be my greatest strength, the very thing that allowed me to meticulously build my case and secure my patent. I would tell my younger self, the one heartbroken and ashamed by Marcus's betrayal, that this pain is not the end of her story, but the crucible in which her true strength will be forged. I would tell her to trust her intuition, to never doubt her own value, and to understand that she possesses an unshakable inner compass that will always guide her toward truth and purpose. Healing, for me, came not from forgetting the betrayal, but from transforming it into a foundation for a life of integrity, impact, and unparalleled success. It's about taking the ashes of a shattered dream and building something even more beautiful and enduring. The ripple effect of my story has been truly inspiring. My advocacy for ethical research and intellectual property rights has led to tangible policy changes at universities and research institutions worldwide. Young scientists, particularly those from underrepresented backgrounds, have reached out to me for mentorship, telling me my story gave them the courage to pursue their own discoveries and assert their rights. Reed Therapeutics actively funds scholarships for women in STEM and partners with nonprofits dedicated to promoting scientific integrity. It's a testament to the fact that one act of injustice, met with unwavering resolve and a commitment to integrity, can ignite a movement for change and inspire countless others to reclaim their power and pursue their dreams. Thank you so much for listening to my story tonight. It's a testament to the fact that even when someone tries to steal your most profound achievements, you have the power to protect your truth, reclaim your legacy, and build a future far beyond what you ever imagined. If you've ever faced betrayal in your professional life or had to fight for ownership of your ideas, I invite you to share your experiences in the comments below. Let's create a space where courage is celebrated and where no one feels alone in their battle for intellectual integrity. And please, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with anyone who needs a reminder that the quiet ones, armed with truth and meticulous data, can often be the most formidable. Remember, your power lies in your intellect, your integrity, and your unyielding spirit.